If only I had more time. How often have we heard those words? The Bible tells us that we are just a vapor that appears for a little while and then vanishes away, in James chapter 4, verse 14. While the human lifespan seems like a blip on the scheme of what appears to be endless time, that is far from the truth. I dare say to most people, time is the one constant in this vast universe, much like a cosmic clock that always has been and always will be steadily ticking away. However, in his theories of relativity, Albert Einstein showed that that idea is false. Time does not march at a constant rate. Rather, it varies depending on the frame of reference defined by the speed of an object and the surrounding gravitational field. So you see, things are not always what they seem to be. Being influenced by motion and mass means that time is a function of space, matter, and energy. And that's profoundly important because it tells us that time does not exist separate and apart from the physical realm. Instead, it is an outgrowth of the creative acts that are documented in the biblical accounts of Genesis chapter 1 and the first part of John chapter 1. This was discussed in greater detail in another of my videos entitled Creation and Time. That video is also available on my YouTube channel. So the point here is, the history of the universe is what defines the history of time. Or saying it differently, as goes the creation, so goes time. Just as time had a beginning with the birth of the universe, so it shall end when the physical creation has served its purpose. The Creator has already told us that heaven and earth will pass away. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 35. When that happens, it will happen in a spectacular fashion. The entire physical universe will be wiped out of existence. According to 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 10, the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the elements will be destroyed with intense heat, and the earth and its works will be burned up. Verse 12 repeats, saying, the heavens will be destroyed by burning, and the elements will melt with intense heat. So not only do these passages foretell the destruction of the heavens and the earth, but they also foretell the destruction of the elements, the basic building blocks of matter itself. The substance of this universe will melt under intense heat. Now, we don't know when this will occur, and we don't know all of the specific details surrounding that, but perhaps there's a bit of a clue. In Hebrews chapter 1 and verse 3, we learn that the Creator upholds all things by the word of His power. Colossians chapter 1 verse 17 says, in Him all things hold together. So from these two verses, we learn that the Creator preserves the consistency of the environment we dwell in. The Creator is actively enforcing the natural laws that govern our universe. So I ask you, what would happen if the Creator were to suddenly let go of the forces holding all the atoms together? Well, we witnessed a roar and heat from something similar in a fission chain reaction that first occurred on July the 16th, 1945 at the Trinity site in Alamogordo, New Mexico. It was the explosion of the first atomic bomb, and that involved a relatively small amount of material. So imagine what would happen if all of the atoms in the universe were to split apart simultaneously. Or if all of the matter in the universe were converted to energy. Albert Einstein actually gave us a way to compute that through his famous equation E equals mc squared. And it is an enormous amount of energy. I dare say it would resemble the description provided in 2 Peter chapter 3. So the point is, however the Creator may choose to do this, when the physical realm dissolves, time will be no more. So what does that say about the notion of endless time or physical immortality? The truth is, they do not exist. So where does that leave us? Well, let's summarize by looking at the timeline for the universe. Since it had a beginning, and since there is no such thing as endless time, that means our timeline is really a timeline segment. It starts at time 0, when the universe came into existence during creation, and it ends when the physical universe is done away with. So what's left then? What is left at the end is what was there prior to the beginning. In biblical terms, we call it eternity. Eternity is the realm encompassing the absence of time. Now here we must be careful not to confuse the meaning of biblical words and biblical concepts. Many people stumble by associating eternal life with living for endless time. That is a false physical interpretation. Time is a finite, created entity, and it will vanish when the physical creation passes away. Instead, eternal life is properly linked to the absence of time. It is life beyond the physical domain in what the Bible calls eternity. Now, crudely, we can add this to our illustration of the timeline segment by placing eternity prior to the beginning and following the end. So, is such an existence even possible? Well, yes, indeed it is. We know this because the Creator exists separate and apart from the physical realm. The Creator existed in eternity when there was no creation and was no time. Logically, then, we might ask one more question. Does this affect us and our little blip on the timeline segment? Well, indeed it does. And that will be the subject of future videos. I hope you've gained understanding from this discussion. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And remember, the truth transforms. Disclaimer, no deer were hurt in the making of this video. Those booms that you heard at the end were leftover fireworks from the 4th of July. For those interested in learning more, please check out my website at thetruthtransforms.com. There you will find additional information and resources. I also invite you to take a look at my book entitled A Debt I Cannot Pay. It is available from the publisher Westbow Press or from Amazon and any of the other online retailers.